Welcome to Wine Road, the wine, when, and where of northern Sonoma County. I'm your host, Marcy Gordon, with Beth Costa, Executive Director of the Wine Road. Once again, our show is on the air through the generosity and support of Rubin Winery. Rubin specializes in Russian River Valley Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, wines that to me truly capture the essence of the region. Check out their website at ronrubinwinery.com. Welcome to episode 178. Today our guest is Larry Willis. He is the innkeeper and owner of the Gables Inn, which is a beautiful property. Welcome, Larry.
Thank you so much. Nice to be here.
Nice to have you.
Yeah, this is fun. I thought we would start out, I figured you have a lot of different wines I'm sure you go to and visit and try, but I thought I'm going to bring a wine that I bet Larry hasn't had.
And you're absolutely right.
So I brought this from Rubin. It's called Pam's Unoaked Cabernet. That's right here. You heard it here first.
And I'm sure that's why you haven't had it, because I think this is one of the only unoaked Cabernets in Sonoma County.
Yeah, so it's a 2021 unoaked Cabernet, and it says right on the label, happy wife, happy life.
Yes, so Pam is Ron Rubin's wife, and they do this beautiful Pam's Unoaked Chardonnay, and this is the companion wine that they worked on for several years. And it is an experience. I do like this wine for a lot of reasons, how it's just fruity and forward and just really has great body. It's a fun wine to drink. My husband loves this wine.
Actually, surprisingly, my husband enjoys it also because he's normally a big Cabernet or Zinfandel drinker. But I think for me, weather makes a difference in the wine I want to drink. And it's so hot up in Cloverdale that I don't really want a big heavy Zin in the afternoon. But the little unoaked Cabernet hits the spot.
Beth, I think everything hits your spot up there in Cloverdale. You have a big spot.
I have a spot.
But it is a very unique wine.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so tell me, or tell our listeners about the Gables Inn, where you're located and what you're known for and what they would expect if they checked in.
Sure. Well, the first thing they'd expect when they check in is a glass of wine, because we are in wine country.
I'm on my way.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be. I'm coming to wine country. You set the tone, right?
Yeah, exactly. We are south of Santa Rosa on Petaluma Hill Road. We're about 3.5 miles from downtown and a mile from the city limits. So just down the street from Taylor Mountain Park and the Bees and Blooms Lavender Farm.
And it is a great location because if you like to hike or disc golf, there's some great recreation at Taylor Mountain there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and the property, you really have to drive down there because it's, you're kind of out there on your own, but it's such a beautiful vision when you drive by. I love it.
Yeah, the Victorian was built in 1877, but the property was originally settled in the 1850s by a couple from Ohio. And they first squatted on the land and eventually purchased 300 acres and were cattle ranchers.
Wow.
So we now have 3.5 acres.
What a history.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got the original homestead.
Yeah.
We've got, and this is funny, we've got the original outhouse.
Gotta have that.
It was, there was no plumbing in those days. So they had it set up to accommodate 2 adults and 1 child. And then we've got our barn, which was also built in the 1850s, and it's one of the oldest standing redwood barns in Sonoma County, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. That's the living history when you're there. I mean, you really can, it's like frontier days.
Yeah, and, back in the 1700s and early 1800s, it was an Indian reservation, and we actually have a Morton pestle about the size of a volleyball.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That was found on the property.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And every now and then we'll dig up something.
Something comes up.
Yeah, yeah.
So the barn that's still there, is it usable? Or is it just sort of a relic of the 1800s?
No, it's a little bit of both. There is a big open area that we can hold events in. Mm-hmm. Most of it is storage.
Yeah.
The hayloft, though, it's the thing's rock solid. Possibly at some point in time actually go in there and seal up all the air leaks and keep the birds out and clean it up. You could actually have an upstairs event space.
Yeah. Wow.
Nice.
That's like the barn that was out at Soda Rock. I mean, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's not, they haven't done anything to it. It's just beautiful old wood, and you can see through almost every,
all the slats.
in the wood. It's like, it's so pretty. The light comes through. It's beautiful.
How many rooms are at the Gables Inn?
We've got 8 as part of the bed and breakfast experience.
That's nice and intimate.
Yeah, so we've got 7 inside the Victorian, and then the cottage, which was the original homestead, is number 8. And then we've also got an old milk house that was built in the 1930s to support the dairy operations on the ranch. And we use that as more of an Airbnb type experience. So it doesn't get the breakfast, it doesn't get the wine, it doesn't, but they have, we've got 3.5 acres. So people are more than welcome to wander around and explore. We've put in a vineyard. We grow Riesling. Nice. Which is a little bit unique in Sonoma County. Yeah.
It is unique. Are you making that yourself, or are you selling the grapes?
No, we sell the fruit to Chris Loxton at Loxton Cellars over in Glen Ellen.
Yeah, nice.
And, the last 2 years have been a little bit rough for both of us. We haven't gotten the yield we wanted, so he has been blending it with his Viognier.
Oh, that's nice.
And it makes this absolutely lovely little afternoon wine to sit out in this hot summer and
Well, there you go.
Enjoy.
That sounds like a Cloverdale wine.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice.
I'll have to check that out,
How did you get into the innkeeping business?
Oh, good heavens.
Is that a loaded question?
It kind of is. We lived in St. Louis. This was in 2010. We went to Kentucky and visited the Bourbon Trail.
Oh, wow.
And we stayed at this lovely...
There's a plaque there dedicated to Beth, I
think that's right at my alley also.
So we stayed at this really lovely bed and breakfast, and we kind of drove away from there saying, maybe we could do this.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
And then a couple of days later, we stayed at another bed and breakfast, which was like the worst possible experience you could ever imagine.
And I think I could do that.
It was this absolutely beautiful property, but my wife, Pam, said, if he can do this, we can do this.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was in the fall of 2010, and we purchased the Gables. Tomorrow will be our 11th anniversary, so
oh my gosh, that's
June 1st, 2012. And we packed our bags, moved out here. We both retired from our previous careers.
What an adventure.
Yeah, Pam was a high school counselor at a vocational technical school, and I'm an engineer. And we'd never had any experience in hospitality before, but
this sounds like the makings of a sitcom.
I just feel like my mind is blown because I have stayed at a bed and breakfast.
What an adventure.
I've never thought I could do this. I've always thought, oh my gosh, I would not want to do this. It seems like just too much work. I mean, it's hard.
You have to be the right personality. You have
you really do. You really do. And, we love people. We enjoy getting together with our guests and having a glass of wine in the evening outside. We've got a stand of 5 redwoods with a fire pit and a deck in the middle.
Wow.
And we'll sit out there and just, it's great fun.
So it's like you're living the life and you're making it, for your guests, but you're living it too. That's the way to really do it because it's not work then. It's just it's part of your lifestyle.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So that's an adventure to just pack up and do that. That's amazing.
We've absolutely fallen in love with Sonoma County. It's a wonderful place to live. The people here are fantastic.
Was the property an inn to begin with? Did you buy an inn or did you buy the house and turn it into an inn?
It has been an inn since 1989.
Okay.
Prior to that, it was a private residence. I'm going to kind of go back even further. Yeah. The youngest son of the family that originally settled the property was born in the cottage in 1870.
Wow.
They built the Victorian 7 years later, but he lived in the Victorian until the 1950s.
Oh, wow.
So he had a really long life for his generation.
Yeah, definitely.
And then it went kind of like 10 years of multiple owners, all kinds of stories about it. And then a couple named Larry and Zilpha Schneider bought it. Zilpha was a young adult author, and he was Dean of Humanities at Sonoma State. Wow. And they had... I think 2 boys and a girl, if I'm not mistaken. And they lived there. They are the ones who had the vision of it becoming a bed and breakfast when they were getting ready to retire and move on. Mm-hmm. And they put the well in. Prior to that, they were getting water off of Taylor Mountain through the creek that runs through the property.
Amazing.
Yeah. Got a lot of the permitting done, that kind of thing, and then sold it.
So it was there's a lot that has to go into for it being a lodging. So that was starting to already fall into place.
Correct.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's such a, that's a very quiet little corner of Sonoma County there and of Santa Rosa area, because it's, you're right at the mountain, and, there's the metropolis to your left, and to your right is all the nature. So you're right in the middle. It's really nice.
And we're in a green space between cities, so, they can't really build there, through some agreements. It's also in the California Salamander Protection Zone, so it's really limited as to what can be done, back behind us.
Yeah, it's a little pocket of happiness.
It
back
really
there.
is.
Yeah.
And in the
Marcy, she has a way with words. You can put that on your material now. A little pocket of happiness.
I like that. I like that.
It is because it's like going from one zone to the next, and you are transformed in that zone.
You are.
I think so too. It's
amazing.
Like you feel like you're out in the country, and you're so close.
We go up to Taylor Mountain a lot, and so many trails, and it's so pretty. And if you get up to the top, it's like an amazing view. It's like you're flying.
It absolutely is, yes.
It's amazing. And it gives you the whole, you're looking over the whole county. Yeah. It's definitely a great hike. There's so many paths there.
So I tend to think that everybody comes to wine country to go to wineries. And yet I talk to a lot of lodging owners that are out in Guerneville, and they say that a lot of their guests don't go wine tasting at all. They come, they're staying out there, they're enjoying the river, they're spending days at the coast. They hike Armstrong Woods, but they really are not, they're there for that. They're not there for wine. So what do you find your guests are coming to center? What's driving them to the Gables Inn?
The vast majority of people really are out here for the food and wine.
Yeah.
And then the natural beauty, a lot of times it's underestimated. I don't know that we promote that as much as we should.
Right.
We're just used to it.
Yeah, we are. But we've kind of got a little circle drive that will say, you're here for several days and you want to take a day off of wine tasting, go do this. And
take this loop.
We'll take them up to Armstrong Woods, through Guerneville, up to Jenner, down the coast to Bodega Bay, and over to Spud Point and have some clam chowder.
Yes.
And, of course, the town of Bodega with the Alfred Hitchcock, the birds, and the church and the schoolhouse there.
Yeah.
So it's a great little circle drive that they can,
and it's doable in half a day almost.
Yeah.
If you take like a day though, what a perfect day.
And it really
hits all the spots.
Shows all the diversity of natural beauty in Sonoma County.
Yeah, you've got the mountains, you've got the river, you've got sheep meadows, you've got it all. That is what's beautiful here. It's the diversity of the landscape, and not just we have the ocean, we have the redwoods, but all in between, because we are an agricultural zone and area. So there's a lot of open space, and people are surprised, I think, how the rural beauty. I mean, the way that schoolhouse looked, it looks the same. Yeah. And the trees and the landscape is still the same after all those years. So that's kind of lovely that there's that continuity.
Yeah, and the beauty of the landscape change from when you kind of like leave Dutton Mills and head toward Jenner, and you transition out of the forest and out of the mountains into the ocean.
Into the coast.
Into the coastline. It's fabulous.
Yeah, it's true. That's a really good point, because there's such a dramatic change from this topography from one to the other. And you can do it all in a day.
Exactly.
Where else could you do that?
Correct.
It's funny. So years ago, I have a son who had a wine touring business, and on his website, he also had just day trips that people could take, and it was trips that people suggested to him. So I had that trip that I suggested. I lived in Healdsburg at the time, and to me, West Side Road, all along the vineyards, and then out to the coast, and then down Spud Point for sure, and then back the other direction. I mean, it is beautiful because it is such a diverse trip. And he said that was his number one route. Everyone loved that. I mean, the scenery is breathtaking.
It really is.
We do that. Sometimes Beth and I go post podcasts to Spud Point, get a crab sandwich, go up to the head and look at the view and hang out. I mean, you might as well live the life.
Well, you have to go up there every time. Every time I do go to Spud Point, I drive out to the point and eat my sandwich out there.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen this 1,000 times now, but you still have to see it.
It's never
gets
enough.
old.
It never gets old. There's the whales sometimes. You've got the deer. It's just, we do that loop sometimes too, because we live in Sebastopol and we'll go River Road all the way out Jenner, come back around and up, and can't beat it.
Can't beat it. I feel the same way about coming through the tunnel, heading towards the Golden Gate Bridge. As soon as you come out of the tunnel and you see the bridge, every time I see it, it's like the first time I've seen the Golden Gate.
Yeah, my wife gets goosebumps every time we
Every
do that.
time. It's like, oh my gosh.
I take video every time, or
Me
I take a
too.
picture
Yeah.
every time my phone is full. It's like,
Yeah.
I live here, but I can't resist
You can't
because
not take the picture.
it's iconic. And there's something about it, such the feeling. And I think that's what we have here. It's not just the landscape. There's a feeling when you're in this kind of nature, seeing this kind of, there's no development along the coast. So
No.
it is really unique how in many places it would just be all hotels and condos and whatever. But here we have a lot of protections that keep the coast pristine and keep our open space, a lot of dedicated open space, which is really important.
It's really important.
It's time for our Fast Five. Who do we have on the line now?
Well, hi there. It's Jim Rickards, J. Rickards Winery and Vineyards, and I'm calling in with a recipe.
Awesome. What's your recipe, Jim?
Okay, this is wine country lamb chops.
Perfect.
Nice.
This was a recipe from one of our tasting room staff,
Great.
Christine Curitan, and it's really a country type of thing.
Something simple. So there's supposed to be 5 ingredients. So what did we go and put in this recipe?
Okay, we got lamb chops.
Lamb chops, number one.
Number one, in this recipe is she had wrote it down as 3 ounces size,
Okay.
and then there's 3 tablespoons of Dijon mustard,
Okay.
1 tablespoon minced fresh rosemary, and 1 tablespoon minced fresh thyme, and last but not least 3 cloves of garlic.
Oh, that's a lot. Yeah. That
Yep.
sounds good.
Oh yeah. and with Zinfandel, it's spectacular. And then you add salt and pepper to taste.
Right.
Perfect. That sounds simple enough. And you're going to pair that with a little Zinfandel. Sounds good.
That's correct.
Okay, so tell me again, what was the name of this? This was what called pork chops? What was it called?
Uh,
chops?
Lamb
Rather?
chops.
Wine country lamb chops.
Wine
Lamb
country.
chops.
Wine country lamb chops. Okay, sounds good.
We'll put that all in the show notes. Thank you for the recipe.
Thank you very much for having me.
Talk to you later. So the Gables Inn is a bed and
Breakfast, yes.
breakfast.
Yes.
Mhm. So
Let's talk food.
You have some favorites, some things that people come back for because it was amazing.
We try to be unique. We try to surprise people. One of our favorites and our cloud souffle. You come out of the kitchen with the souffle for breakfast, and you got to.
I do that every day. Yeah.
Yeah, right, and it just really surprises
Oohs
people.
and ahs.
Yeah, in the summertime, when the tomatoes are ripe, we do what we call our breakfast BLT.
Oh yeah.
Sounds so good.
Some avocado, some arugula, some great tomato and bacon, and a poached egg on top.
Oh,
It's a great
Our
presentation.
seasonal bounty here. You
Yeah.
just can't go wrong.
You can't. You
Yeah, boy.
So do you have a pretty good sized garden there at the inn or not?
Yeah, we do. We actually overproduce. We try to support the farm to pantry folks, and who distribute food to those who don't have it. And so we always overplant for that reason.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great. That is a great organization.
So corn and melons and squash and certainly tomatoes and.
Yeah. And you're in a great spot
so you
there
have the
that
good
has enough
climate.
heat, a good climate for
Yeah.
a good garden right there.
Yeah.
Our property is so weird. We're in the Petaluma Wind Gap.
Oh, yeah. So you get
So-
that finger of fog come through.
Yeah,
and-
yeah. But in the afternoon, in the summer, you can set your watch at 4:30. Here it comes, and
Right.
the temperatures will drop 20, 30 degrees, and it'll be 15 degrees difference from one side of our property to the other.
Wow.
That is a thing to see. Fog comes in, and you can set your clock to it.
You can.
But it does changes the environment rapidly.
Right.
It's dramatic. When my kids were little, that's when that was the Crushers, the Sonoma County Crushers, the AAA baseball or whatever was down Roanoke Park. And we live in Healdsburg, so we'd all have on our little flippies and our shorts, and we'd drive down to the baseball game. I don't think we ever saw a game all the way through. I'm like, it's just too cold.
Yeah, and we do just the opposite. We'll go to an event in Healdsburg and we leave the house with our coats.
Yeah, you're like, don't need that.
Yeah, but you sound like it's all set up. You have a fire pit. Just embrace the environment and enjoy it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
that sounds wonderful. So do you do weddings or events or elopements? Or what
We've
people
not
come-
had a lot of success with that. We do smaller ones, so the little micro weddings.
Yeah.
Those seem to fit our niche really well. We've done some events. One of our favorite things when people ask us to make a donation for a charitable event, we'll frequently do an appetizer and wine pairing.
Nice.
And we'll team up with this is our choice, but we'll pick one of our favorite wineries and we'll get different wine, different food pairing, and do it for 6 or 8 people and set up out. And we've got a pavilion out in our vineyard, and we'll set up out there, and
Boy, that
makes for a
super
lovely
nice.
afternoon.
Yeah,
That
that's
sounds
really
great.
nice. Yeah. And then people are seeing your property and
Correct.
making plans for next time.
Yes, yes.
So when you and Pam packed up and bought the place and came, what was the one most surprising thing, unexpected thing about?
I think just the appreciation for the land and fresh food and, preparing it for people. I don't think, coming from St. Louis, you don't get a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I think, out here, it's pervasive. It's just
It's like you went into Oz of
you
food.
do, you kind of do, and you go to the restaurants here and, the food just came out of the garden that afternoon and
Right.
and that kind of thing. And
It is unique because most parts of the country don't have a growing season like we have. They don't have the bounty of foods that are grown. Anywhere you live has its great thing. But here we seem to have an abundance of great
we
stuff.
do,
It's
yes.
an embarrassment of riches.
So jumping in and opening a bed and breakfast, was there some like giant learning curves there? I mean, I can't imagine.
I don't think so. We seem to go into it fairly seamlessly. Cooking for a large number of people on a set time, that took some getting used to. Other than that,
So for
it
you,
kind of made sense.
You
it
seem
was
like
like
the
just
perfect
inviting people into your
innkeepers.
home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That's perfect. I always say to my husband, it's like, if you have the right personality, it's perfect because you really have to embrace and really enjoy being with people. And if you don't, you should not open an
then it's
inn.
not a good
Right.
I mean, you're always pretty much on because you're there living and taking care of the
Yeah,
guests.
that's what I think.
Right.
So it's a special personality that can make that successful.
Yeah, I don't know. That would not be the thing for me.
Oh, you're good. You'd be good.
I'm good
You'd
with
get everyone out there drinking.
Yeah. then they don't. Then everybody's happy. Yeah. So one thing I did want to mention one more time for the Wine Road is it coming up in about a week. We have July 8th is the Wine Road Summer Wine Trail. So it's the first year that we're doing this. There's 45 wineries participating. You can go online to wineroad.com and get yourself a ticket. It's $50 for the day. Again, 45 wineries you can choose from. They're really focusing on nice summer whites. So there's white wines and rosés and sparkling. So check it out, wineroad.com. Wine Road Summer Wine Trail.
So, Larry, the best way for people to contact you is through your website, or what's the best way people want to see the property, make a reservation? What should they do?
Yeah, our website is thegablesinn.com.
Okay.
And it's very informative. We get, for people that are looking for other people's opinions, TripAdvisor, we've had 5 stars since we been there.
That's great.
Yeah, so that's that's a very important tool for us.
That's
And
huge. I mean, that really is how I make decisions. I mean, I check that out for sure. It matters. That's great.
Awesome. So then can they book online or do they call you? Or
they can do both.
both.
And
Perfect.
and some people, would rather speak to someone, so they'll call.
yeah, right.
And but probably about a 50-50.
Whatever works
Yeah.
for people. Yeah.
Correct.
All right. Well, we'll put that link in the show notes so you can look up the Gables Inn and plan your stay because it's an awesome place and you definitely should come check it out and mount your wine country visit.
Yeah, there you go.
In fact, you might never leave the inn because there's, you can hang out there, eat some great food and drink some wine and sit in the redwoods.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, one of the things we pride ourselves on is knowing the restaurants and the chefs and the wineries and winemakers and we really want people to have a great experience.
Yeah, you're like their concierge to the area.
Exactly.
That's the thing. I feel the same way at the Wine Road. When people call and we kind of help them along, plan their trip, I want it to be the best possible trip they can have so that they plan and they come back again and they tell their friends. I mean, there's so many options that we definitely can dial it in for what you like.
Yeah, and we also like to really, when it comes to wine, there's so many small guys out here that are just making some exceptional wines, and you're not going to find that in the Midwest or the East Coast.
And that's a great innkeeper. Your innkeeper should be your guide to the area and, really point you to the right direction. And so it's also fun for you because you check everything out.
Yeah, all that research.
Right.
All the research can't beat that.
Not at all.
Yeah, well, sounds great.
Okie dokie.
All right. So thank you so much, Larry.
Absolutely.
for joining
Thank you.
Great for having you. And we'll see you on the Wine Road.
Absolutely.